A psychopath does not usually test you with cruelty first. They test you with something small, a joke that crosses the line, a favor that feels slightly too soon, a personal question that comes before trust has been earned. They are measuring exactly how much disrespect you will tolerate. They are scanning for your microsignals, the tiny cracks in your armor that suggest you might be easy to control. This is the small boundary test. They are not testing whether the moment matters. They are testing whether you will explain it away, laugh it off, over-apologize, or let them move closer without consequence. But don't confuse a single awkward moment with a predator. We are looking for a pattern. The small probe, the sudden pressure, and finally, the total removal of your boundaries. Sign number 1. The forced intimacy trap. This is when someone creates closeness before trust has had time to catch up. You have known this person for maybe 2 weeks, maybe less, and they sit down across from you and tell you something heavy. A difficult childhood. A betrayal. A secret they say they have never told anyone. And it lands with weight because it sounds real and because you are a decent person, and decent people respond to vulnerability. But here is what is actually happening. There is a difference between a clumsy overshare from someone who genuinely wants to be known and a tactical overshare from someone who wants you to feel owed. The person seeking connection wants you to understand them. The person running a test wants you to feel like you now have a debt. They went deep, so now you should go deep. They were honest, so now you should be honest. They handed you something, so now you hand them something back. Watch for the pressure to match their depth immediately. Watch for the slight pause after they finish, the lean forward, the expectation in their eyes. They are not waiting for comfort. They are waiting for your secrets. You were being measured for a role you didn't audition for. The countermove is simple. Acknowledge what they said without matching it. You can say something like, "That sounds like it was hard," and then you stop. You do not trade secrets because they went first. A real relationship earns depth over time. Anyone trying to shortcut that process is not building trust. They are extracting it. Sign number 2. The micro-boundary breach. That is what marked really means here. Not chosen because you are weak, but noticed because they think your boundaries can be negotiated. And this is the sign where that negotiation begins. It usually looks small, almost invisible. A joke at your expense in front of other people. A comment about your money, your schedule, your body, your relationship. Something that crosses a line but is delivered lightly enough that calling it out feels like overreacting. A strange interruption when you are speaking, like your words do not quite count. A question about something personal that you did not invite. Each of these is a small line, and the test is not whether you noticed. The test is whether you said anything. Most people do not. Most people absorb it, file it away, and tell themselves it was nothing. And that filing away is exactly the data point being collected. You do not need to make a scene. You do not need to explain yourself or deliver a lecture. You name the line once, calmly, and you move on. Something like, "Don't joke about that with me." That is it. No anger, no long explanation, just a clear signal that the line exists and you noticed it was crossed. What happens next tells you a great deal. Sign number 3, the compliance probe. This one comes in the form of a request, a ride somewhere, a small loan, an introduction to someone you know, a schedule change that inconveniences you but is framed as minor, a quick favor that somehow becomes your standing responsibility. On its own, a favor is just a favor. People ask for help, that is normal. But in a test sequence, the favor is not really about the favor, it is about your compliance. They are watching whether you say yes when you are not ready to. They are watching whether you hesitate and then cave. They are watching whether a no lands cleanly or whether it requires negotiation. A pushy salesperson uses pressure to get a yes. But this pattern is deeper than that. They are not just looking for the favor. They are looking for whether access becomes automatic. Whether your time, your resources, your connections are available on demand. The countermove is to delay the yes, not forever, just long enough to see whether they respect the pause. "I can't do that today" is a complete sentence. If they push back hard on something small, that is not frustration. That is data. If you are already thinking of someone who has done 3 of these things, you are not being paranoid. You may be watching a scanning process that is not finished yet. The first probes study you. The next ones start training you. Sign number 4. The status probe. This one is about whether you will defend your own ground. It usually sounds like a joke, a nickname that subtly diminishes you, a correction delivered in front of others, a jab about something you care about, your work, your choices, your appearance, wrapped in enough humor that objecting seems thin-skinned. In a healthy friendship, a jab can be a way to bond. Two people who trust each other can take shots and laugh. But in a test sequence, a jab is something different. It is a way to see whether you will apologize for your own existence, whether you will laugh along with your own demotion, just to keep the peace. They are not just being mean. They are checking whether you have the self-worth to defend your own status. They are checking if you have been conditioned to accept low-level humiliation as a form of friendship. Because someone who laughs along when they are being lowered is someone who can be lowered further. You do not need to escalate. You do not need to match their energy. You just do not laugh along. And if it warrants a response, something like, "That was unnecessary," is enough. Calm, flat, final. Watch whether they apologize or whether they tell you that you are too sensitive. That response is the real answer. Sign number 5, the manufactured crisis. This probe is emotional, and it tends to arrive at the worst possible time. It is 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. You have work in the morning, and suddenly there is a crisis. An emergency. Something that requires your immediate attention, your presence, your judgment, your rescue. And it is framed in a way that makes stepping back feel like abandonment. The crisis may be real. That is what makes this difficult. But the pattern to watch is whether these moments cluster around your boundaries, whether the urgency always seems to arrive exactly when you are about to say no, or step back or take space for yourself. They are testing whether guilt can override your limits, whether the right emotional pressure applied at the right moment can get you to break your own sleep, your own schedule, your own judgment. The counter move is to separate urgency from responsibility. Their emergency is real to them, but you are not the only solution. "I'm sorry that happened, but I can't be the only solution" is not cruelty. It is clarity, and how they respond to that clarity is the test result. Sign number 6. The boundary backlash. This is the one that confirms everything. You say no, clearly, calmly, without cruelty, and something shifts. Maybe they go cold. Maybe they withdraw and make you feel the silence. Maybe they come back with guilt. "I thought you were different." Or, "I guess I know where I stand." Maybe they get angry in a way that feels disproportionate to what just happened. Maybe they start telling other people a version of events that makes you the problem. This is the boundary backlash, and this is where the pattern reveals itself completely. The first 5 signs can sometimes be explained away. Awkwardness, social pressure, someone having a rough time. People are complicated, and not every uncomfortable moment is a test. That is true. But the boundary backlash is different, because a person who genuinely cares about you does not punish you for protecting yourself. They may be disappointed, they may need a moment, but they do not weaponize your no. When the charm fails, the mask does not just slip, it snarls. Do not repair the relationship just because they punished your boundary. That is the trap. The punishment is designed to make you feel like the boundary was the problem. It was not. Your reaction tells me the boundary was necessary. Hold that. Because it is true. One awkward moment is human, but a pattern is different. The forced closeness before trust was earned. The small line crossed to see if you would speak. The favor that quietly became a debt. The joke that lowered your status while you smiled along. The crisis that arrived exactly when your limits were in the way. The backlash when you finally said no. That is not random, that is a test sequence. And when the full sequence repeats, especially with pressure and backlash, you are no longer looking at confusion. You are looking at a pattern. They are studying you. They are measuring your micro-signals, mapping your cracks, and deciding exactly how much of you they can own before you notice. Once you see the sequence, something changes. You stop explaining away the pattern, you stop auditioning for a role you never agreed to play, you stop being useful to someone who never saw you as anything more than that. The sequence only works if you don't recognize it. Now you do. If this pattern felt familiar, watch the next video on screen and subscribe to Pragmatic Principles so you can spot these patterns before they spot you.